I'd like to welcome you to an evening of an intellectual and spiritual joy, planned exclusively for you to enjoy a unique program of intriguing lectures by outstanding speakers. I'd first like to thank you for joining us this evening and making the program as special as it will be. My name is Dorsa Beruchim, and as a member of the Cafe Rambam program, I will be introducing the speakers for the night. I'll first begin by giving thank yous to a few well-deserved individuals. A special thank you to the Beverly Hills Country Club for hosting our lecture at this great venue. And a thank you to our musician of the evening, Ronak Tamuri. Tonight's event is the first of this lecture series, which is a proud program of Cafe Rambam of the Persian Maimonides Foundation, which is led with Rabbi David Shofet as president, Shirin Doch Daririan as executive director, and its board members, which include Rabbi Yedidia Ezrachian, Dr. Isaac Norman, Mr. Iraj Safai, Mr. Mike Nazarian, Mr. Javid Shalom, Mrs. Furuk Manavi, Mrs. Parvanesh Saraf, and Dr. Farhad Daririan. To begin our program, we'd like to share the mission statement of this foundation. The Persian Maimonides Foundation, in affiliation with the Iranian American Jewish Federation of Los Angeles, is dedicated to publishing the classic works of the world-renowned Jewish philosophers into Farsi. The Cafe Rambam program, through seminars, English lecture series of young and middle-aged singles, and Cafe Rambam classes in 2 branches, aims at increasing the knowledge of Jewish philosophy and spirituality among Persian Jewish communities. Recently, the Persian Maimonides Foundation formed a scientific committee in order to program the lecture series in English for young and middle-aged singles. The committee includes Dr. Morgan Hakimi, Dr. Baruch Amiri, Rabbi Yedidia Shofet, Dr. Farhad Daririan, Dr. Shahruz Naim, and Shirin Doch Daririan. We acknowledge the generous support of Mrs. Shahla Javdan, Dr. Parviz Javdan, Dr. Isaac Norman, Mr. Rahmat Beruchim, and Mr. Sam Khoshbin, who partly sponsored the July program. I would now like to ask Mrs. Shahla Javdan, the president of the Iranian American Jewish Federation, to speak to us briefly.
Shalom and good evening. I had not planned to speak, but I cannot think of a pleasure, bigger pleasure, than being able to speak to such a wonderful group of intelligent and wonderful young people who are making one of the most successful and educated second generation of immigrants in this country, and that's you. I want to thank Rabbi David Shofet, because if this was not what you had thought about and you had started, Federation would not have ever been in a position to do something like that. If Iranian American Jewish Federation is an umbrella to all the Jewish organizations, then Cafe Rambam and this organization is the jewel on top of that umbrella. We are very proud of you and continue your wonderful work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shahla Javdan. I would like to now introduce our first speaker of the program, our community's well-respected rabbi and teacher, who will open up the program's introduction, Rabbi Yedidia Shofet.
Before I start, the amount of thank yous were definitely not enough. The preparation for tonight is more than what you think. More than anything is in front of you, just think about it. Every person who's wearing a tag. That was a vision of so many people, especially of Shirin Daririan. I want to thank you very much once again. I would like to say I have the honor of also thanking my colleagues, Dr. Shahroz Naim, and of course Shirin Devriyan for tonight, that I'm able to speak alongside them. And of course, I would like to thank each and every one of you, because without you, this is nothing. The energy that each of you bring makes it so diverse, makes it full of energy. And of course, as a personal note, I would like to thank my wife for making it possible for tonight's project. So what is this lecture? We created a lecture for tonight, and God willing, for many more lectures to come, a series of lectures. The idea of why it's a series of lectures and not just a one time, it's because you had 20 years, 30 years, 40 years of mending your life in one way or another. In order to add something to it, or in order to think about something, one night is never enough. That's why tonight is the beginning of many nights to come. And I just want you to know there will be an understanding, and that is, when you leave tonight, you'll be more knowledgeable than when you came. You will know whether or not you wanted to come, or whether or not you did not wish to come. But I can tell you this, there's one thing in which that you will not know. You will not know the effect of what tonight has given you. I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about every single aspect of tonight. You know, many times in our lives, we hear of a lesson and we forget it. Only for 10 years, 20 years later, for that lesson to revisit us. We call it sometimes a subliminal message, or sometimes a sort of a coincidence, or as my rabbi used to call it, God's way of staying anonymous. And what does it mean? It means that only the future can tell you exactly what I'm teaching you tonight. But I hope not. I hope I'm not just talking to your subconscious. I hope I'm actually talking to you today. And ultimately, I can tell you that tonight, I'm not giving you a motivational speech. True, the topic is the best version of yourself. But the reason why it's not a motivational way of saying, how can you make yourself the best? It's because it takes time. But tonight's topic, the reason why I mainly want to say it's not a motivational speech is because what is a motivational speech? I usually compare it to a 5-hour energy drink, a 6-pack of Red Bull. It gives you such energy after you come out. You feel that you rule the world. Feel that you can take upon anything. However, there's something I never want to see in each and every one of you. And what's after that 5-hour energy? What's after that 6-pack of Red Bull? There's a crash. There's a crash. And the purpose of tonight is not to present any external formula in order that this crash should happen. Rather, tonight, it's to show an acknowledgement of you. For instance, you have something we call adrenaline. And you can ask any doctor how it works, how the adrenal glands secrete this epinephrine into your body. It makes your heart start pumping. It gets you going. But that's your own body that's creating that. You have so many things that you have no idea what you're capable of. And God willing, through these series of lectures, and also just the beginning of tonight, we can touch the tip of this iceberg. So what's the problem? If we don't need these external factors, what is the issue? So one time there was a manager. He was top of the line. He was hired to a new firm. Now this manager, he believed he can do anything. And as he came into the firm, the former manager tells him, listen, I know you think you're the best, but just in case something goes wrong, I put 3 envelopes in the bottom of your desk. So the guy looks at it. What do you need to tell me? You're the guy who got fired. I don't need advice from you. He tells him, listen, I know you're not going to listen to me, but just in case. He says, okay, fine. A year goes down the line. The company's doing phenomenal. However, in the second year, things start breaking up. They start losing their capital. They start losing principal. He doesn't know what to do. And then he remembered, just like that little thought, the subconscious mind. He remembered there's something that could help me. And then he remembered. It was that envelope in the desk. He goes over to the desk. He opens up the drawer. He opens the envelope and it says, blame your predecessor. The guy who was there before you, blame him. Your CEO won't fire you. Your CEO will tell you, okay, you're right. We needed time. We needed time to actually set this company straight. Okay, fine. So another year, everything goes fine. However, another year after that passes, and things start hitting the fan, as they say. And finally, the guy says, you know what? I think I'm on a roll over here. No matter what happens, I can go to my magic genie, if you want to call it. He pulls out his second envelope, and what does it say? It says, you have to reorganize from bottom up. He tries it, and it works. 5 years. Not a single problem. However, things start going out of hand once again. And he says, it's no problem. He goes to his desk, opens the final envelope, and sees, it says, prepare 3 envelopes. The problem is, people worry about how many chances they have. If they fail once, okay, they can live with that. If they fail again, it gets very difficult. However, we have to understand, there's a little prayer we say every morning. We say, Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shechizarta bi nishmati. We thank God every morning for returning our soul. What a soul is, I'm not here to tell you. The idea behind it, I'm not here to tell you. The fact that we have the ability to wake up and to say, thank you, I can have another day, you have your second chance that you wanted. You have your third chance. You have 365 chances every single year to once again try again. But now you're thinking, what approach should I take? You said the last chance failed. Okay, now I want to try the new chance. 365 times, okay, but what approach do I take? So, I want you to imagine something. I want you to imagine that you need to buy perfume or cologne for your spouse, or for your friend, for your brother, for your family. So you go to, let's say, Nordstrom's. You walk into Nordstrom's, and all of a sudden you smell something that it elates you. What is that? And you ask the lady, she says, it's the new Coach perfume. So she said, so you're like, okay, I want it. But as you're going to the cash register, what happens? You see in the corner of your eye, there's another one. Okay, let me smell it. What's that smell like? You smell it, it's a new Prada. You smell it's amazing. So if these two are good, that means there must be others that could be even better. You try the third one, and what happens? You forgot what the first one smells like. Third one's Chanel, if you want to know, if you want to keep up with this. You try the third one, you forgot what the first one smelled like. So what do? You ask the lady, excuse me, can you please pass me a couple of those tester papers? Okay. Before you know it, you have 10 tester papers. You forgot what each one smells like. And not only that, but in the end, each and every one of those perfumes and colognes smell exactly the same. What happened there? Now you're stuck. You don't want to buy 10 perfumes, 10 colognes for your friend. For your friend? So what are you going to do? So you ask the lady, listen, can you please pass me a little can of coffee beans? Now what happens? Anyone who knows how it scientifically works, please explain it to me afterwards. But when you smell these coffee beans, it neutralizes every single smell, and once again you start over. I'm not saying that you found out which one to choose because now you started over. But you know that if you're going to take that same route of trying every single one, you're going to be right back where you started. And ultimately, if you want to keep doing that, you'll probably end up finishing all the tester papers in Nordstrom's. So this Modeh ani that I tell you, it's a Modeh ani that's given to us. It's to tell us that every day we have a new beginning. It's a reset. You neutralize yesterday to some extent. Obviously, there's some things you can't. But you begin once again. You may not know exactly what to do, but you know what not to do. And how do we begin our day now that you've actually neutralized yesterday to some extent? You have to think yourself that you are like wax. You're like a hot wax. Why do I say this? Because what happens when wax cools down? It takes a shape. It takes a mold of everything it comes in contact. Now I said everything affects a person to some extent. So imagine the people that you talk with, the people that you come in contact with, everyone that you speak to, the work that you do, it starts mending this wax. And at the end of the day, when your day cools down, what happens? The wax hardens up. it creates a shape. And the next morning, that shape once again becomes liquefied and begins. However, there is always a little residue left. There's always a little residue of that wax from yesterday left, even though you start anew. So what is that residue? We call that your external personality. That is a very big subject of itself, but I'm just going to say it in short to explain my point. What is your personality? Each and every one of us, we're all very unique. What do you call it? In short, you want to say that personality is not what you can do, it's who you are. You want to say, yeah, but your actions are who you are. It starts off at who you are, which inevitably shows your actions. So the problem is, if you want to identify who you are, that you're unique, you are a product of your community. You are a product of your society. You're a product of everything around you. So ultimately, what are you just doing? You're mimicking, you're imitating all the characteristics that have been around you. So once again, the wax, it's doing its job. And you're just continuously being trained and ingrained by everyone around you. So now I'm asking you, what's your personality? Is your personality everyone around you, or is it you? How do you find out what your true personality is? So with all things taken into consideration, there's something we call an innate personality. This innate personality, it gives us the dominant factor, which ultimately shapes who we are. And I'll tell you what that means. You have a docile community. A community which, it's very calm, there's nothing going on, it's very mainstream. Like for instance, I was in Baltimore for a while. However, and Baltimore is a very quiet city. But what do you see right now? You see a fellow from Baltimore in the London Olympics trying to get more golds than he ever can. Where did that come from? Where did that little spark come from? It's Michael Phelps, by the way. Where did that come from? Because in every community, in every society, that little epic changing individual, it can be you without any problem. How does it work? It's because when you see that all the people in the community, everyone here, they're on one end of the spectrum, and you have another person who's excelling in his persona, he's excelling in his character, it shows that each and every one of us, we have our innate personality, in our, if you want to call it our nucleus. It might be dormant, but it's there. It's your personal fingerprint that's inside of you. And if you want to call this, personality is not what you can just do, but it's what you're to do when it's your turn to do it. The Vilna Gaon, he was a great giant of a Rav. He was a rabbi about 200-300 years ago. He was a genius. He used to write with his right hand, one topic, left hand in another topic in another language. And this was documented about 300 years ago. His objective towards the idea of understanding what a personality is that you have to harbor your personality. Meaning that each person has a structure of personality. And for you to get the most out of it, you have to work within that structure. Your structure, your innate personality. Not the outside world. Not anything else that affects you, but what you affect everyone else. The Talmud in Shabbat explains something very interesting. The Talmud says, and this is very cryptic, I might add. It says that there's a Zohar. Zohar is what we mostly get our Kabbalah from. It says there's a Zohar which explains that there are certain constellations in which a person has traits. Meaning, under a certain constellation, he may be a person who sheds blood. What does that mean? It means he may be a person who wants to actually be a shochet, a slaughter, or a person who wants to be a robber, or a person who wants to be a surgeon. The Gemara was telling us, the Talmud was telling us, you have this personality, but how you channel this trait, this personality is up to you. You have certain ideologies. You have certain traits and personalities, but it's all up to you how you're going to actually use and channel this through your efforts. So King Solomon the Wise, King Shlomo, he said in the book of Proverbs when you want to raise a child, when you want to raise students, because you know, all rabbis, all teachers, what are they doing? They're raising the next generation. He says the only way you'll ever be successful is if you do something in which even Moshe Rabbeinu said, in which Moses said. And that is, you have to train each and every individual according to their individual nature. If you go on a general approach, you'll lose them. Your approach has to align with their nature. And once you do that, you'll be able to cause them to work on a successful path. And to furthermore show this, many people believe that certain jobs never have beracha, never have a blessing. However, Talmud says that there is no such thing as no job without no blessing. And people want to think about this a little bit. About several years ago, what is the most degrading job that you believe? A person who picks up trash, for instance. You would think there's no blessing in that job. That a person can never make a living out of this. However, we know of a company named Waste Management, which there's worth several $1 billion. And there are many other things like this. In every single job, there is someone who actually has the ability to thrive. So what does it come down to? It comes down to this. You are the one, not me. You're the one to realize. You're the one that has to shake off the wax. You're the one who has to smell these coffee beans. You have to realize what is she'echazarta bi nishmati, that you return my ability to have that second chance, that third chance, those 365 chances of every single day. And the best version of yourself, it's all up to you. It's all up to you to let him or her out. And then you wanted to know, it's called the best version of yourself in your community. The only way you'll be able to make the best version of your community is by you affecting your community. And you need to first make yourself a better person by bringing it out. Don't be scared. Don't be shy. And ultimately, through all these series of lectures, we'll be able to learn more and understand more about this idea. Be'ezrat Hashem, I wish everyone much hatzlacha, much success in every endeavor. And I hope that throughout the whole course, it will add so much to everyone. I want to once again thank everyone for coming.
Thank you, Rabbi Yedidia Shofet. Our next speaker is a neuroscience researcher whose experience in scientific investigation and Jewish spirituality brings a unique approach to our understanding of topics in Judaism. This next seminar is titled Brain and Self-Transformation. Dr. Zahir Hussain.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to be here. Glad to see all of you here. So many wonderful faces. Some of you I know, and some of I don't. And I have some old friends, which also happen to have studied neuroscience at UCLA. So it's great to be here. My young friend, the young rabbi, is such a wonderful speaker. I think I would rather have him give my speech or lecture. Thank you, thank you. Those were wonderful words. I'd like to get right to the point. I hear echo. Is it okay? Does it sound okay? So the title is Brain and Self-Transformation. There's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be said about brain. There's all sorts of philosophies about self-transformation. Various types of religions and cults have been around for hundreds and thousands of years, and they come and go. But there is one original philosophy which has been around for several thousand years at least, and it continues to flourish and grow and enlighten all of us, and that's Judaism. So, having said that, why do we need to know about our brain? Well, there's quite a bit that the modern science has to tell us, mainly because we are our brains. We are embodied. Our brains are embodied. We are who we are because our brain is inside our body. It may seem like a silly comment, but actually it's a profound question. If your brain was outside your body, would it still be a brain? So that's a thought experiment. You can think about that. Anyways, So we need to learn about the brain, we need to know about its structure, we need to know about its function. The brain, I think of it as a receptacle or a vessel. In Jewish philosophy, we call a vessel or receptacle kli. It's a kli, or it's a receptacle for information, because that is what it does, information processing. Information is the currency of our nervous system, or our brain. It comes in a variety of forms: sounds, sights, smells, taste, touch. Information processing and computational capacity of neurons is limited individually, but collectively, in neural networks, it can accomplish incredible tasks. For example, you can hear my voice and visually observe my presence at the podium simultaneously, even though we know that the speed of light is much faster than the speed of sound. However, the various neural networks in your brain construct and present to the arena of your consciousness a clear and informative picture of the outside world without disparity of the auditory and visual scene. Basically, the nervous system differentiates and then integrates the information through the filters of our experience. These filters, or networks of neurons which are constantly active, are part of various circuits in the brain. For these circuits to be sustained over the lifetime of an individual, they have to be in use frequently. The principle of use it or lose it applies. Just like a muscle which grows larger with repeated use, in other words, they have to receive stimuli or information and to transmit the same to the next neuron or processing unit in the circuit. The process of information transmission, although not simple, is accomplished in two ways, generally speaking. Chemically, by chemicals in the body, which are known as neurotransmitters, and electrically by charged ions in special sites of contact between neurons called synapses. By some estimates, an adult human brain has somewhere about 10 to the power of 11 neurons. Well, then you can imagine the magnitude of complexity when we talk about hundreds to a few thousand of these synapses per neuron. Just something to think about. Is it possible for a human to physically connect to 1,000 or more other individuals? That is, of course, excluding the internet and social media. I think so. I think there is. Well, now I'm going to shift gears a little bit and explain about neural networks. An important property of these networks is measurement of how they behave. How can we measure them? Well, we measure them by the number of individual elements in each of these networks, and then the interconnectedness of these units or neurons. The more active a neuron, meaning the more sending and receiving on information it carries out, the more stable that neuron becomes. And the more stability it confers upon the network or its neighbors, other neurons which is contacting. In other words, the degree of stability of a network is a function of the stability of its active units. Each one of us is one of those functional units in our network or community. Perhaps that is why in Judaism we believe that loving thy neighbor is tantamount to our own survival and well-being, since we are all leaves and branches of the same tree of life or network. Now, expanding on the concept of various neural networks in the human brain, we can talk about important systems or neural networks which are the ultimate expression of human beings. Number one, these are neural networks which generate our thoughts, and those whose locations and exact identity and function is still not fully understood, and it's still a mystery to science. Number two, in contrast, is brain areas responsible for speech, production and comprehension, in other words. The left hemisphere is indispensable in this regard. The left hemisphere is responsible for language comprehension as well as language production. Therefore, it's to no surprise that damages to the left hemisphere compromise faculties of language and rational thought. Number 3, the last of the neural networks of interest is the one responsible for generation of our actions, or in the scientific lingo, motor movement, which is also understood much better than the other two that we mentioned. These neural networks enable us to move about in space and accomplish the various tasks using our limbs, as well as all the other aspects of our actions. So we always say, actions speak louder than words. Well, given these three elements, these three faculties of our brain, the unity of function, or functional unity of these three categories, according to the Talmud, is what every Jew should strive for in order to elevate himself or herself spiritually. The right thought leads to the right speech, and subsequently the right action, given that we have the intentions to do so. Our thoughts are the foundations of our speech, and our speech in turn guides our actions in the manifest world. These same three categories of neural networks afford us the possibility of change on the individual basis. These networks can be changed and improved upon, depending on our intentions, to balance our rational and emotional aspects of our decision-making. Allow me to elaborate a little bit using the limited but the useful analogy of a computer system. The hardware and software of a computer correspond roughly to structure and function of the human brain. To reiterate, computer architecture or hardware becomes analogous to various human brain structures, while the computer software corresponds to the numerous mental faculties of human brain. However, in our case, the software, the ideas that we think of or entertain in our heads can change the structure of the brain. For example, anger, fear, negative thoughts, and stress lead to shrinkage of neurons and synapses, whereas strengthening of neurons and neural networks with positive thoughts leads to release of trophic factors, which stabilize newly formed synapses and promote healthier neurons, therefore fending off anxiety and depression. Our next speaker will expand on this topic philosophically from a Jewish perspective, and will have practical exercises to start you on a journey of self-transformation. So I encourage you to stay for the fireworks after the break. Following the computer analogy, we come to point out the main difference between a computer and a brain: self-awareness, consciousness. That's the key property or feature of our brains which make change possible for us. We can increase our intelligence or our capacity for thinking by improving our thoughts, speech, and action, and not merely upgrading our Pentium processor. Today, with the help of modern technology, we can assess these changes at the microstructure level of the brain and observe and measure the behavioral changes that an individual implements in their behavior over time. Long ago, Rambam explained in detail methods, techniques, and practices for bringing about change on individual basis, which our next speaker, Ms. Dagbian, will elaborate on. I thank you for your attention, and then we'll come back and Ms. Dagbian will start. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be a respected and acclaimed philosopher by the global Persian Jewish community, who has translated Rambam's works, The Guide for the Perplexed, into Farsi. She has 25 publications in the fields of philosophy and history. She is one of the founders and board members of the Maimonides Foundation. Also having an MBA degree in nonprofit management from the American Jewish University, she serves the foundation as its executive director. In a span of a year and a half, she has managed to hype public seminars and lectures, one of which, the one of which, the Post-Holocaust Philosophy Seminar, attracted an audience of 800 people at Netzach Synagogue. Her main goal of this foundation is promoting adult Jewish education. She repeatedly quotes from Martin Buber, which reads, "Adult Jewish education is the key to the survival of the Jewish communities." Shirin Dagherian will now be leading a lecture and an interactive workshop titled Philosophy of Self-Transformation and Its Techniques.
Good evening.